the Among Lion Hearts podcast, where we dare to have Moxie for what matters. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Julia, and we're your new loudmouth change-making do-gooder best friends here to embolden you to take more action, risk, and heart towards creating a more just, equitable, and brave world.
Yes. If you are looking to position your cause as the charity of choice, ensure that your organization attracts the most engaged supporters, and safeguard the longevity of your organization, then this is the episode for you.
Yes. So this reminds me of, I'm sorry, we need to start over.
Okay, all right.
Great. So you look like I started talking, you started talking at the same time.
Yeah, that happens sometimes though. Am I supposed to bring you in there? Because the note says I'm supposed to bring you in, and I'm like, ask a question. What question?
No. Okay, no, I'm taking that out.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Third time's a charm, baby.
Yeah. There's a little struggling with that. Okay.
No worries. No worries. All right. So, welcome to the Among Lion Hearts podcast, where we dare to have Moxie for what matters. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Julia, and we're your new loudmouth change-making do-gooder best friends here to embolden you to take more action, risk, and heart towards creating a more just, equitable, and brave world.
Yes. If you are looking to position your cause as the charity of choice, ensure that your organization attracts the most engaged supporters, and safeguard the longevity of your organization, then this is the episode for you.
Let's talk about change and relevancy and being bold and doing scary things.
Yes.
I'm going to talk about my first TV appearance that I did 2 years ago. Let me tell you, I was terrified. I got a really incredible opportunity. Michelle remembers this and stuff. I had her on the phone a lot of the times, like helping coach me through a lot of this. I was absolutely terrified, and I actually looked for reasons to get out of going on this live TV session. And it was a 5-minute TV spot, and it's something that I always thought would be cool, but I just didn't think it was for me. But I've been like growing this blog and this brand business, and it was definitely the right timing for me, but I had never done it before. And I had just barely started like playing with videos and, you know, doing some Instagram live things and stuff like that. So doing something on the scale of a live broadcast, like statewide episode, just was super nerve-wracking. And it took a lot of coaching, and it took a lot of people, and it took a lot of encouragement to get me there into the studio. For some reason, all the excuses and all the things that I kept trying to put in the way of going on live TV, they just kept fizzling out. And so I found myself at a point where I was going live and doing a little craft show in front of the entire state of Utah with all of my closest friends and family watching and cheering me on. And oh man, I prepared like a dog for that thing. I rehearsed every scenario I could think of. I was up till 2 a.m. making my husband like hold up different things and like timing me to see if I could get the segment done in like 5 minutes. You know, like I was like, oh, I'm gonna nail this thing. And you know what? I didn't. It was a complete flop. Partially, I blame it on the fact that I was standing next to Chelsea Hightower from Dancing with the Stars. And they did not tell me Chelsea Hightower was going to be my co-host for the segment. I thought it was going to be this other lady that no one really knew about, but it was Chelsea Hightower, and I'm like her biggest fan ever. And I'm standing next to her, and she's super tiny. And you guys, I'm 5'10", and I'd be surprised if she's 5 foot. Okay, so like I'm like the Jolly Green Giant next to the most beautiful Chelsea Hightower, fanning out majorly, and I'm sitting there going like, do not tell her you think she does a mean cha-cha. Do not tell her that. Focus on the thing. And at one point during the live segment, I completely froze. She asked me a question that wasn't on the list that I had prepared for. the millions of different scenarios I hadn't prepared for. She threw me a curveball and asked me a question, and I froze. And I was like, I don't know the answer to this. I didn't memorize this. And then as I froze, I was like, wait, what was the question she just asked me? And I totally couldn't remember the question she asked me. I didn't know what I was supposed to do next. And I just was like, and I have this moment like burned into my head of Chelsea Hightower looking at me with the most sympathetic eyes. And I'm just like, no, don't look at me that way. And then like everything in my body, there's like this really loud person inside my head going, run, just run out the door, just do it. And I really considered it. And then she grabbed it and we were able to get it through the session and stuff like that. But it was a total mess. And I went to my car and I just cried and cried and cried. I was like, I can't believe it. Everyone I know watched that. I was like so humiliated. I'm like, I didn't want to talk to anybody. And like, that 5 minutes felt like a half an hour, like everything slowed down. And I was just picking at all these things that I was doing wrong. And by the time I got home, it was like a good long hour drive. By the time I got home, like I was pretty much in pieces. And then I got up the nerve to watch the episode by that evening, healed a little bit. I was like, okay, I'm going to face it. I'm going to watch it. And I watched it and I was like, yeah, this is not good, but it's not the massive disaster that I thought it was. And then my next feeling that I'm so, so grateful for is I'm like, okay, now I know a lot more than I did before I started this episode. And I can pinpoint the different things I need to do different to show up as my best self and my most authentic self. And then I had this like massive amount of like adrenaline rush through me. And I'm just like, I want another try. I had a full mental breakdown, but I was like, I want another try. I think I know how to do it, And I'm so, so grateful for that, facing that and getting to look at it straight on and being like, okay, I did the thing. I was successful just because I went and I didn't run out the door and I stayed and I let it be bad. And I learned from it. And now I want another try because I think I can do it better. And I was really excited about it. And so guess what? Somehow they invited me back and like just bless their hearts. Like I wouldn't have. Like that is not a professional. But I did get to go back and I knocked the socks off of that next episode. And I continued to get invited back I became a regular monthly contributor as a craft and DIY segment. And so that was a really, really neat experience in my life that taught me so much. It taught me about being afraid and doing it anyways. And also about being in the moment and being willing to change and being in the moment in a learning capacity. Like I don't know everything. And the only way for me to learn something is get in and get messy and learn and pivot and change. And that's all we're talking about today. That's a big part of what we're talking about is how to apply that in all these different areas. So yeah. Michelle, what do you think?
Well, I think that today's episode, we're really focusing on social awareness and relevancy, staying up on the trends, but really we're also having this conversation about the tug of war between staying relevant and staying, sustainability, stability in your organization. And I started out my entrepreneurial journey back in 2012, and I had this great idea for a company where I was going to go in and basically take small business owners, hold them by the hand and help them automate and use the computer programs that they may have already invested in, because I was seeing a lot of small business owners that I knew, people around me who, would kind of toss money at a problem as far as buying like a software program that was going to revolutionize their work and have them stop focusing so much on certain things. And what I found being a consultant was that change is really, really hard. People don't want change. We are wired for homeostasis. We are wired for, everything kind of staying the same. And it's almost cruel how we're wired to do ambitious, wonderful things. And we're so creative and we're so caring and thoughtful and we want to change the world, but we're also wired with this thing that says, no, change is scary.
Yes.
And so what I found was, the change that I would offer them had to be incremental. I couldn't just like adjust everything and say, all right, you're going to do X, Y, and Z. They just wouldn't. I could design a beautiful plan and nobody was going to engage with it. And ultimately, a lot of them just asked me like, well, can you do this for me? And I was like, well, I can, but I'm expensive. So I think that, in talking about staying relevant, we have to have that conversation about being willing to embrace change. We have to have the conversation about, of course we need this stability in our organization, but how do we make sure that stability doesn't actually become a risk management issue in itself? One thing that we want to kind of start by touching on is that safety is foundational for organizations, right? You get in there, you're a brand new organization, or maybe you're a founder and you've got a brand new idea and you're like, we're going to do this. And you've got all the chutzpah and the courage and the audacity to think up this wonderful organization. And then right off the bat, your job is to pursue sustainability. Your job is to make it so that the organization's not going to close its door. Your job is to, bring some people on so that you can serve your mission, so that you can actually get to this vision. But then you also need to make sure that the doors stay open so these people who are here to help you can be supported. And so bringing an organization to the point of stability is like an essential goal at the beginning. And, newbies, that. People who've been in business for, 20 years, if your organization's been around a long time, 5, 10, 15 years, you'll remember this. Like it was everything you were focused on was trying to get to that point where you were stable. You had stable finances to be able to create budgets with. You had stability to be able to hire and develop people for your team. It's very, very important. And we're going to talk a little bit about how balance comes into play with that important goal. So once we achieve stability, we have to start being vigilant about not falling into complacency. We can't switch into, and the nature of that mode of getting to sustainability, and then you get there and you're like, oh, thank goodness, things are going to go a lot more smooth. The real danger here is that now it's not just an idea. You've manifested this wonderful thing. You put all of this time and effort into it, and now you want to protect it.
Well, you have a lot of responsibility, right? You have a lot more responsibility than when it was just a dream, right?
Absolutely. So, there's so much more responsibility. There's so much more, sunk cost in a fully formed organization. And that means that in order to continue to grow, in order to continue to do the great things, you've got to now decide when to use the gas pedal and when to use the brakes, because safety is the brakes. Safety is, we're not going to go too fast. We've got to make sure that this is stable, that this is sustainable, that we are safe. And if you never push on the gas pedal again, how are you going to get to that next stage? How are you going to get to that next level? So it is very, very, very important to, once you are here, start going, all right, we're here. When do we use the gas pedal and when do we use the brakes?
Yeah.
So I think, yeah.
The most successful nonprofits, there are 7 attributes to being the most successful nonprofits, and one of them is staying relevant. And that has to do with like making sure you stay the change makers, right? So when you're first starting a business, the only change that you really need to be focusing on is starting it. That's a big enough change, right? That's a big enough revolution, and you just need to be focusing on, like Michelle said, creating stability. But as you get going, you have to still be the change maker. And so let's talk about 3 things that you can do to help create that balance between staying a change maker and staying up on trends and staying relevant and keeping your stability. Michelle is the brakes and I'm the gas in our organization. And we make a really good team because I'm like, change everything all the time. And I just want to always have new stuff and always have fresh stuff. And she's like, we got to develop this all the way through, so and you'll find people in your organization, in your team who does that as well. And it is a balancing act. And you have to have both. And the first one is participating in current events. And participating is the key word here. You don't just stay on top of current events, being aware of current events. You need to participate in current events. And you do that by just like checking in, seeing like, is this relevant? Are these values my supporters would also be interested? Is this a movement that they're going to want to hear representation from me? And also staying up on current events, something that's really important is being aware of public opinions, because guess what? Nonprofits and causes and movements, they trend, right? Public opinion changes on those things. People have different understanding. We learn from charities and nonprofits in doing good, and we have to pivot what we learn, because sometimes our really good efforts, they don't do the good we think they're going to do. Like, we put a plan together to do good and sometimes we miss, right? And so we need to be really honed in on public opinions and politics so that we know like where that's flowing and how we can get supporters. And it's also a great way to check your organization and check your values and your mission and make sure it's still like ethical and going in the right direction. And then Michelle, like you have a really good example about the Tom's shoe. So tell us about that.
So, Tom's Shoes, they're a for-profit company. They're not a nonprofit, but they did run into this issue where, Tom's Shoes, everybody was so excited about it because it's like 5 pair of shoes, give away a pair of shoes. And that social enterprise, that idea of being socially responsible and corporate social responsibility was really trendy, and it continues to develop today. We're seeing more and more companies who are focused not only on profit but on purpose, beyond the nonprofit world. But the real issue that happened here was, this was a great idea, and once it came to fruition, we started to have a little bit of a problem. And the problem is that, we're providing shoes for these communities. We're providing shoes for people who don't have them. And we also started to take away jobs from people in those communities who would have provided shoes. We're taking money out of their pockets. So suddenly somebody whose entire business is built on providing shoes or selling shoes, there's no way to compete with having the market flooded with a free product. And so what happened was, everybody was all about Tom's Shoes, and then suddenly somebody was like, wait a second, this is not what we thought it was. This is not just helping, it's also hurting. And you know, they had an opportunity to kind of like just keep that going, but they really needed to pay attention and make a little bit of a shift. And it's important that you take the time to kind of look through all of the aspects of how your impact is affecting people around them. I think that we're finding that people who are coming of age, people who are getting to that, good, solid place of being able to donate to causes are more socially aware, and it's not just about the initial thought. They do want to follow that idea all the way through and find out that, what they gave actually went to a place that was impactful. And there's more and more tools these days to make sure that you can ensure that for your donors. So it's important to make sure that you are not, having this thing happen where you have these good intentions and you end up hurting the economy in those places. So it's a place where public opinion kind of shifted. And if you're not paying attention, if you're Tom Shoes and public opinion just shifts and you don't make a shift and you don't pivot to follow that shift, you're going to lose out. And, it's especially an important message for nonprofits because we are out there doing good work. And we have to be aware that we have to be responsible with those good acts. We have to make sure that they're really doing what we're intending that they're going to do.
100%. And that goes back to that trust too, right? As being one of those important attributes of a successful nonprofit. If you're not staying relevant, if you're not willing to change, you're going to lose trust. And people are already suspicious of nonprofits because there's some out there who've done some pretty shady things. And that's super unfortunate because we need do-gooders. We need good causes. We need change makers and justice warriors, and so we have to be extra diligent and protective of their trust. And that comes with like admitting that you're wrong and changing and saying like, this didn't work and we're sorry, we didn't understand, but not being afraid to try something new. So it wasn't bad that Tom Shoes did it, right? Because they didn't know the outcome. And it's just important that they stopped, right? This wasn't going to be a thing that they could shift too much. They needed to stop because in some places of the world, jobs are more scarce than we can even imagine, right? Like more than we could ever comprehend. Another way to balance between that change and relevancy and stability is prioritizing organizational stability. Prioritizing organizational stability puts you in a reactive mode, so like avoiding that. So like that keeps you in defensive mode, right? If you're just protecting the stability and not willing to change, you're just playing defense. You're just protecting that ball. I'm not a sports person. I don't know why I'm using a sports reference, but
because I wrote the
reference. Here we are. You're gonna protect that, but you're not. I do know what offense is, and that's the thing that moves the ball forward and gets it the ball in the basket. So sorry, sports fans. But okay, hopefully that'll help you remember. Don't just play defense by keeping things just stable. Make sure you got that offense too to like balance that. And the third one is proactive engagement. This is super essential. Growth cannot happen if you're too far protecting that stability, right? So find ways to, nobody just wants to donate. No one wants to just give you your money anymore, right? Like that feels good, but you know what feels better is doing something like with action. Find ways to help your supporters do something in a more interactive way, engage more with them, send them more information, do more live shows, show them what their projects are creating. Anything like that, like that's just going to create so much trust, and it's going to keep you fresh on their mind, and it's going to put you it's going to position you as a leader in that area. Like these people are regularly doing stuff every day, currently doing stuff every day to do good. So try to keep things as up to date and as fresh as you can, and find ways to get your supporters involved. And there's so many cool ways now with technology. It's such a really cool time to be a nonprofit with all these technological advances, because we have more options to do that with. So get creative.
Absolutely.
All right, Michelle. So how do we achieve more of this balance?
So it's number one, you got to take time to be aware. You'll not be able to stay socially relevant and catch shifts in social opinion if you're not taking the time to be aware. Somebody in your organization needs to be collecting Google alerts on your niche, following leaders in your industry. You've got to be able to check for hot topics, things that are happening that you might need to have a voice in, because the really unforgiving thing about social media is people didn't used to be able to tell as much when you were silent on a topic. And these days you can be judged just as much for being silent as you can be for being involved. So a lot of the time, if something big is happening, you really need to calculate whether it's more important for you to be silent on it, or whether you need to say something, and support someone else's movement, because people can verify your silence at this point, thanks to the wonderful tool of social media that gives us so many things. It also provides accountability. So make sure that you're showing up to critical conversations, and that you're willing to just, start by listening and learning, and join people who are kind of on the same page as you. The next way that you can achieve the balance is deciding on the best ways to participate, right? So you don't have to just say, we support this person. There's a lot of ways to choose from. If it's a cause that people who are your supporters care about, then you may need to take more action than just saying something, right? So if you can kind of take the pulse of that and decide what level of action would be appropriate for this, are people who are our biggest supporters going to kind of, or not even your biggest supporters, but the biggest part of your group, the majority of your group, are they going to be joining in on this cause, and they need to hear that you are also in it. Also, you need to make sure to achieve the balance between stability and relevancy. You need to be able to make sure that you're keeping stability as a priority. Just don't allow it to be the priority. And there will be people in your organization whose stability is the priority for, and there will be people in your organization who, relevancy is the priority for, but make sure that's covered on both ends from your organization. Schedule regular intervals to evaluate how well you're doing. There are ways to check whether you're being relevant, right, Julia?
Yeah, again, like scheduling those regular intervals, there should be. I think that on average, a lot of organizations try to schedule quarterly to do a pest analysis. And that's really important. If you've never heard of a pest analysis, it is an analysis where you try to find the things that could potentially impact your organization in the negative and the positive. And so PEST stands for political, environmental, social, and cultural, and T is for technological. So like political, we know that every political year, voting year, Michelle, what is the year called? Every election year. That's
Yes.
the way.
I was like, why you have to ask me like that? Like my brain
Put you on the spot. No, every election year actually impacts nonprofits significantly, sometimes in the positive and sometimes in the negative, but it's enough that you should be aware of it and you should plan accordingly. Environment like hurricanes and different kinds of environments can drastically change the need for a nonprofit. Sometimes it creates more need and you need to show up, you need to collaborate more, and you need to have more problem solving. And then social and cultural, like that, again, we talked about that earlier, about the social shift and the cultural understanding of a nonprofit. Like sometimes they get a lot of heat drawn on a certain cause, you have to like stay up on those trends so you know about those threats. And sometimes they do in a positive way. Sometimes a lot of these environmental things, they're really boosting to an organization. And then lastly is technological, staying on the latest tech so that you're utilizing the best ways to get donors, engage with your dream supporters, and have things running more smoothly. All right, so that's kind of a wrap for us. We've got a couple of takeaways for you guys. The 3 takeaways for this episode is 1, are you still a change maker? Continuing to be a change maker is really, really important. You were once a change maker. Are you still a change maker? And that is really critical. The second one is take a leap of faith. There's going to be a point in your organization where you can only plan and prepare as much as you can. And there's going to be a point where you have to just jump. And you have to jump without any guarantees that you're going to be successful, or that this new program is going to be successful, or a new campaign is going to be successful. Like, you're a nonprofit, you're supposed to be innovative. And that means you got to do stuff that nobody else is doing. And you're going to be jumping off cliffs. And you have to plan for that's going to fail. And you have to be okay with that. That has to be a part of built into your plan. So if you do succeed, it's a bonus, right? Again, like going on live TV, it was a bonus when I did it well. The point was that we did it, we jumped off and we learned, right? And then the third one is be willing to be wrong. Super important in staying relevant. Instead of drinking your own Kool-Aid and being defensive and you're like, no, we really love what we've made here, we don't want anybody to mess with it. That's not going to serve you, and that's really harmful, actually. So, and also, like with that, being willing to be wrong, maybe you weren't wrong all along, and it worked. Right. The things you put into place, it worked for a time, and then it stopped working, and it stopped being not effective, and it started becoming a threat. The things you put into place is starting to backfire, and it's not effective, and it's not getting your mission moving forward anymore. And you're going to lose out more and more supporters that way. So you have to be quick to pivot. You have to be quick to pivot into accepting when you're wrong and adjusting and moving forward and learning from it. Because it's not all what works now isn't going to necessarily work for the future. And be okay with that. There's nothing wrong with it. So life, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's funny
Michelle,
because I
remember
back in I worked for the nonprofit school back in the late 2000s, like 2008, 2012.
The housing crisis.
2012. And I remember them like shoving this book in my hand at a certain point while I was working there, and we needed to read it. And it was Who Moved My Cheese? And everybody who works in a nonprofit is probably
I love that. Yeah, I love that book.
They were old enough to be engaged in the profession 15 years ago. But it's a good reminder. It's a good lesson. It was a hot topic back then, but we need to continually embrace that as a hot topic. Go past fear and enjoy the journey of finding new cheese. Embrace the thrill of the hunt. Be curious. Push the envelope. This is your job as a leader.
I'm adding that to my Amazon cart like right now. Like why is this not in my house? I read that in college, and that was one of my favorite things. All right, Michelle, who is our do-gooder feature of the month? We love these
So
things.
our do-gooder feature for the month is the Color of Autism Foundation, founded by Camille Proctor in 2009 after her son was diagnosed with autism, and she was having a really hard time trying to find services that addressed his needs as a Black autistic child. And she had such a hard time, coming across services, finding services, getting into those services once she found them, that she really dedicated herself to making sure that as soon as she was stable and able to, she would start to fill this need. And so she founded, about a year later, the Color of Autism Foundation, and their goal is to end the stigma of autism spectrum disorders in communities of color. They're devoted to building efficacy and empowering families in order to lessen their isolation. The Color of Autism Foundation is an excellent resource for parents, community members, and allies. Please visit, like, and follow them on Facebook, support their mission, stay up to date on things happening in this community. Being autistic as a person of color is, it's a very compounded level of challenges. And I just think that they deserve all the support in the world for standing up and saying this needs to change.
They're doing some very, very important things. Also, if you have a nonprofit in mind that you'd like us to consider as our feature of the month, please leave their information in the comments. Our do-gooder hype up message today is something near and dear to me. I'm actually going to be quoting Michelle. She created this beautiful written message for me a couple of years ago, and I just wanted to share it all with you. How do we change and still remain who we are? How do we navigate the fundamental contradiction of growth and authenticity? Life does not give us the choice to remain stoic, unmoved. The world is changing all around us. If we insist on remaining unchanged, eventually our path will not serve us. If we change everything radically, execution is easy, but enduring change is not. On the other hand, if we cling to our permanence, moment to moment, can be simple, but as the people around us grow, we are left behind. The secret to striking a balance is in implementing radical change in small, sustainable ways. This is news to no one. If you aspire to complete a marathon, you cannot begin with a 10-mile run. You commit to the first small step and move forward with another and another until you've covered the distance. To age gracefully, we are not gifted the luxury of opting out of aging. We must intentionally decide what details signify grace in the face of the inevitable march of time. This answers the question of how we stay relevant. Your evolution is a small, radical change incorporated within consistent surroundings. This serves the purpose of shepherding your mission from what it has always been towards the extraordinary organization you are meant to become. All right, Michelle, sign us off, girl.
Yes. Among Lionhearts is a socially conscious marketing agency where we specialize in social media management and influencer marketing for the unique needs of social enterprises and charities. Let our team of experts manage your social media workload for you so you can get back to doing more good. Remember that every small act of courage, no matter how small, is not actually small at all. You, my dear, are standing among the Lionhearts.